Fellas, we are currently in the final stretch of Heresy. Act 3 story is finished, Rite of the 9 is right around the corner. But before we get lost in the new content coming up, I want to break down all of our favorite weapons that dropped to us during this episode. This is for new and returning players. Now, I want to also preface this by saying you don't need to farm all of these. I almost want you to treat this as like a checklist or a loot filter, if you will. As you're going through the motions and grinding, one of these weapons may jump out to you, and I want you to remember to snag them. On top of that, Bungie's increased our adept drop rates, and if you get your max rank up at Eris's apartment in the slab, this can enable you to get up to 3 traits per column, which is amazing for mitigating RNG and for locking in that God roll. So to kick things off, we're going to cover some of our episodic weapons that drop from Acts 1 and Acts 2. Now, in past episodes, we didn't really have a whole lot to chase, which is far from what we're seeing here with Heresy. All of these weapons can be obtained from our Heresy seasonal activities. Act 1 weapons drop from the Nether activity, and Act 2 weapons drop from the Court of Blades. Now, you also have the ability to focus for drops by using our Tome of Want. This is allowing us to get more drops from seasonal activities, and it gives you the ability to double dip on the Act 1 and 2 drops in their specific activity. So for instance, you can run the Nether activity, but you can focus on Act 2 weapons within the Tome. Now, you can also play other parts of the game and receive seasonal loot, which is great if you happen to be burnt out on seasonal activities. Now, I will say getting that unforeseen potential Mysterium upgrade from the Shaping Slab, that right there is huge at getting you those double and triple perks. Keep in mind though, the adept versions of these weapons only drop from the activities themselves. So let's start with weapon number 1, Psychopomp. This is an aerial denial frame GL and one of the first weapons we reviewed this season. Now this one is obtained from playing the Nether, and it's the first arc aerial denial frame. Without a doubt, guys, this is one of the best archetypes inside of Destiny. The ability to lock down entire areas, do damage over time. These legendary versions of Witherhoard actually take it to a whole nother level, especially in Psychopomp's departments. From Envious Arsenal and Ambitious Assassin in that 3rd column to Rolling Storm in that 4th column. Perhaps you want to lean into Demolitionists. We have an entire God roll review on what we believe is the best, but if you can lock down an Ambitious Assassin roll with Rolling Storm, Runneth Over, and it happens to be an adept version as well, my God, that is disgusting. And keep in mind, these are seasonal weapons, so they have access to fragile mods. They're the only weapons that can get these mods, and you can slot in this particular fragile mod for that extra tick damage, along with the champion stunning capabilities. For my PvE players, this is a top pick, so definitely keep your eyes out for this one. Up next, we have another interesting option, one that many might be turned off from, but one that I do believe is going to be beneficial going into Rite of the 9, and that is the Adamantite Strand Support Frame Auto Rifle. Now, this frame has the ability to shoot like an auto rifle, and by doing damage, will gain a restorative charge. And once charged up, you can hip fire the weapon at allies to heal them, and rapid healing increases allied weapon damage, along with spawning unraveling projectiles. Now, if you remember back to contest mode Vespers, a lot of people were using the no hesitation support frame auto rifle for this exact reason. The healing capabilities are amazing. And as you know, guys, every time contest mode rolls around, survivability becomes just as important, if not even more important than doing damage, which is why many of us are digging through our vaults for weapons with heal clip. But what I love here about these auto rifles is that you don't have to rely on a kill in order to proc its healing capabilities. Just simply shoot your teammates. And what makes Adamantite even more special is the fact that it's a strand weapon and therefore synergizes with strand artifact mods. And we have many of them this season. Now, the next one on our list is no surprise at all, Abyssal Edge. Going into Heresy, I would say that this sword didn't catch many eyes at all. I'm sure some of you still haven't even used it. Now, we have a lot of swords that are good, but this one in particular was made intentionally so. The combination of aspects like Storm's Keep, the inclusion of Bolt Charge, and this beautiful sword right here allows you to pull off some of the most busted things I've ever seen inside of Destiny. If you've been by the stream, you've probably already seen us use this build a multitude of times. No lie, I was addicted to using this build. So much so that chat even said we were boring for using this build. But hey man, how many builds have you ever seen go from start to finish of a Grandmaster Nightfall and never lose health, never die, and still somehow is able to kill everything? Abyssal Edge on Titan with strongholds allows you to be an invincible tank that also dishes out very good damage. Now, the reason why this has skyrocketed to my most played build this season is because of a few things that changed going into Heresy. First, we have Flash Counter. Bungie reworked this perk where it now emits a short-range blast that disorients targets when blocking damage after raising your guard. Essentially, you just sit there and block with strongholds, and Flash Counter continuously procs. Take this a step further. When you pop your barricade and you're standing behind it, you have Bolt Charge that is accumulating stacks, and anything that's attacking you will get hit with Flash Counter, which will then discharge that bolt charge. But then we have unraveling orbs. When we pick up an orb, this gives our strand weapons unraveling rounds, which, get this, applies to Abyssal Edge because it's a strand sword. And because flash counter is technically weapon damage, this is giving us unraveling rounds and therefore unraveling targets. But wait, there's more. The unraveling rounds actually will discharge bolt charge. So as you're creating bolt charge stacks, even if you are not behind your barricade, that's fine. The unraveling orbs will discharge that bolt charge, thus emitting a tremendous amount of damage. With other artifact mods like Horde Shuttle and To Shreds, this combination right here, guys, might not even be necessary for Rite of the Nines. But if you're looking for a brainless build, a true Titan build, a build that represents what the warrior class is all about, then hot damn it, find Abyssal Edge today, guys, and lock down that weapon. Now, what I will say, the god roll, in my opinion, is Abyssal Edge with flash counter and redirection. Redirection also got a big buff where it stacks up much faster, and on the other side, it uses less stacks than what it did before. There are other options outside of that. That's just the combination that I really like. Now, another episodic weapon that we really enjoyed using this season was Mirror Imago. This is something for both my PvE players and my PvP players. It's a sexy SMG and it's strand. Matter of fact, it's the first strand adaptive frame SMG. Now, this is an Act 2 weapon, so it only drops from the Court of Blades, but it has some great synergy with our artifact mods, along with some awesome perk combinations like Subsistence and Overflow in that third column, and Hatchling and Sword Logic in that fourth column. Now, as with any of our other episodic weapons, you can also get the perk Run It Over as an origin trait, which is really nice as it allows you to overflow your mag quite substantially. And for my PvP players, you'll love combinations like Target Lock and moving target together. And if you're tired of using things like Immortal, Mirror Imago will serve you well, especially the Adept version, which allows you to pump that range up even higher, giving you a range fall off of nearly 22 meters. Don't sleep on it, guys. A very good SMG. Which takes us to a weapon that has been ruining my comp experience, the Division. This is a heavy burst sidearm. And let me just say, I hate going up against hunters with this weapon. You see, Radiant Dance Machines got a nice buff at the beginning of the season, which is why you see literally every hunter rocking it on top of every hunter rocking on the prow. But the point is, Division is a good sidearm all on its own inside of PvP. On a hunter, it just makes them even nastier. With hipfire grip and combinations like offhand strike, sword logic, kill clip, pick your poison guys, in combination with max range, the Division puts the hurt on you very quickly, and it's one of the few weapons that in 1v1s, I just don't know how to deal with it. About the only way I know how to counter this sidearm is with the slug shotgun. Like, straight up, I need something with range and I need something to get the one tap. But if they are in range of you and you're rocking a primary weapon, good luck, man. Now, for my PvE players, this one's got some great options as well. Considering it's an arc heavy burst sidearm, you've got synergies like Bolt Shot being present in that fourth column. Sword Logic is also there. Eddy Current, Pugilist. We have anti-barrier sidearm this season, which is great for the Division here. And the weapon drops from Court of Blades as it's an Act 2 weapon. And with it being a seasonal weapon, it has access to fragile mods. What I will say, guys, is even if you are not a sidearm fan, the Division is very, very good. There's a reason why you see it at Ascendant level inside of comp. Now, next is a weapon I would be doing a disservice if I didn't mention, that being the Refusal of the Call Glaive. This is our first ever strand glaive. Now, let me just say, I was a bit skeptical till I started testing this thing out. And I mean really test it. Because if we're going to say a glaive is good, it better be good. And what I'm here to tell you is just that. The new strand adaptive frame glaive might just be your new favorite glaive. This can drop in the Court of Blades activity, and you can always focus it on your Tome of Wants. Now, this is our third Darkness Energy glaive, with Winterbite being our first Stasis glaive dropping from the Strider Exotic Quest from Lightfall in Season 20, and then another Stasis edition with Rake Angle as a legendary glaive in Season 25 as a Vanguard drop. Now, not only does this have some pretty potent PvE perk combinations like Replenishing Aegis and Close to Melee, it can also synergize with our strand kits, as well as slot in fragile mods, and get this, actually pretty viable in PvP. Now, Bungie did buff glaives inside of PvP at the beginning of the season, and yes, you can roll things like Disruption Break. Perhaps you want to pop a shield, buff that damage for your teammates with kinetic weapons, which, get this, also counts for the melee. So you can literally pop their shield with Disruption Break and then immediately follow up with a melee, allowing for the one-hit kill. Not to mention, we have two unbelievably good artifact mods for our glaives this season. One being Hold the Line, which says that while surrounded, machine guns and glaives gain increased reload speed and stability. Final blows heal you. But we also have No Bell, which states that rapid glaive melee final blows grant special ammo glaives additional ammo. Blocking damage with glaives increases their melee damage to targets. A very cool artifact mod with a very cool name. Now, both of these provide great synergy with our glaives, and that's not even including our other strand artifact mods that you could take advantage advantage of. This is a very good glaive, guys. And whether you're rocking things like Trident Vice on Hunter, Winter's Guile on Warlock, or Worm Gods on Titan, I guarantee you'll have a great time poking enemies with this one. Now, last but not least, out of our episodic weapons, we have the Void Bow Anamnesis. This was an Act 2 drop that actually bugged out and dropped in Act 1, and granted a few people the bow even from the Nether activity. Now, this is not the case anymore, as you only get this drop from the Court of Blades activity. If you haven't used this bow yet, though, you should definitely be on the lookout for it, as its perk pool is just stacked with some amazing combinations that could turn this thing into a legendary Monarch. You've got your bow charge rate perks like Archer's Tempo and Successful Warm-Up. You have Dragonfly and Repulsor Brace, which are present right there in that third column. And then in our fourth column, we have these Stabilizing Rounds and Demoralize and even Sword Logic. Not only are the perks great, but it also has some amazing Void synergy with the artifact mods like Volatile Marksman, Maligned Harvest, and Void Flux. Yes, it is a lightweight frame bow, which I know many people don't like, but with perks like these and the Void artifact mods we have, you shouldn't pass it up, fellas. This is a great bow. Now, moving away from our legendary drops, we have our exotic mission weapon, Barrow-Dyad. Now, this one dropped on us out of nowhere in Act 1 when we all expected it to come in Act 3, like the previous episodes before. Now, the quest started off strong with it being hidden to start, much like Whisper was back in the day, albeit not as hidden. We have a full guide on our channel if you don't have it yet unlocked, but the TLDR on this one is that once you complete the Derealized mission, you'll then unlock the base version of the exotic with the ability to unlock more intrinsic upgrades along with 4 catalysts. Now, I think many of us were not very hyped about this when Bungie first showcased it in the dev live stream. I would say more people were talking about how it looked like a frisbee versus people talking about the possibility of it being a good weapon, but many wrote it off. And oh boy, were we wrong, especially once we got it in its final form. The weapon has great strand synergy alongside just tearing through enemies when in the Path of Ambition version, which if you didn't know, can just be switched on the gun now instead of the shaping slab when it's fully crafted. It's a solid weapon all around, guys. Check it out, and you can also check out a review on this if you want to look at it in more detail. Now, it might seem like forever ago, but we also had a dungeon drop this episode that brought us some great weapons that we want to talk about here. First up is Unloved. This is a strand heavy burst hand cannon that can roll things like Hatchling, Rapid Hit, Dragonfly in that third column, and Frenzy, Tear, and Elemental Honing in that fourth column. And the secret sauce here on our new dungeon weapons, though, is really the origin trait called Subjugation. At base, the weapon itself stands on its own, but Subjugation is an S tier trait. Now, how this works is that when dealing damage, the weapon adapts to its target. So for weak enemies, that is rank and file and elites, the shots basically have explosive payload. For strong targets, that being mini bosses, the enemies become exhausted. And on guardians, dealing damage reduces the weapon's flinch resistance. Now, we only have 5 heavy burst hand cannons, and this is the first strand version. And especially this season, guys, this is one of the best ones you can have. Now, our next weapon that I highly recommend is Unsworn. This is a strand trace rifle that also has that subjugation trait, therefore giving us that little bit of extra damage. Unsworn also has some really good perks to play around with: Subsistence, Rewind Rounds, Shoot to Loot in that third column, Hatchling, Kill and Tally, and Target Lock, alongside our new perk Detonator Beam in that fourth column. And if you're not a PvP player, this is perfect for you. It's the only other way you can get a strand trace rifle before would have been Incisor from Trials of Osiris. And I know we have Navigator from Ghost of the Deep, but Unsworn's a legendary and it's more in line with your typical trace rifles. Along with the great perks and strand synergy, though, that we can get on Unsworn, you also have some really great trace rifle artifact mods. You've got Overload Trace Rifle, Beam Medic, where Rapid Trace Rifle Final Blows heals you and allies with powerful combatants, increasing that amount, and then Harsh Refraction, which when equipped allows your trace rifles to deal more damage to targets afflicted by elemental debuffs, matching their elemental type. This is a solid weapon here, guys. Definitely snag. Now, we can't talk about the dungeon without at least bringing up the new exotic Finality's Auger. This is a new solar heavy linear fusion rifle which drops from the final encounter of Sunder Doctrine. Now, it's got the exotic perk Rune Scribe's Forge, which says change to the alt fire mode to fire a special projectile that deploys a Rune Scribe turret. That's right, guys, an actual turret. This projectile costs 3 ammo to fire, and when you aim the projectile skyward, it'll give it full clear line of sight for the turret to do what it's meant to do, which is rain hellfire. Now, the other trait is Rune Scribe's Beacon, which state that while Rune Scribe's turret is deployed, this weapon can paint targets with its laser projectiles. To say you want to focus a specific target, you could do so with this linear by putting the turret up in the air and then marking where you want it to shoot. Then you can use the alt weapon action to swap between normal fire and laser fire modes, which is pretty fluid. Now, there's also an exotic catalyst quest associated with this one, which we have a guide on, but it essentially grants your linear here bait and switch. Now, let me just say, this is not necessarily the most meta linear fusion rifle rifle? By no means no. But on the unique scale, it's definitely one of the most unique weapons. And as someone who just likes putting down turret buddies, I'm a fan of it, man. And this is coming from somebody that doesn't even main Warlock. But I will get on Warlock just to put down some Stacy turrets and give myself a Hellion. And you could stack that even further with Finality. Now, moving on to our ritual and roll drop weapons that are dropping on us this episode. Now, most of the options we're going to be listing here come from the Vanguard playlist, but we do have a couple Crucible weapons alongside one roll drop. Now, one of which we just cannot mention because of the waves that it is made inside of the PvP sandbox is Redrix Estoc. This weapon just won't die, man. I'm just saying, even inside of comp, it still hasn't died after Bungie has nerfed this thing like 2 or 3 different times. This weapon right here, though, is currently tied to our competitive playlist. So if you haven't done your placement games, you can still do those and you can get the curated role, which is what the majority of players have, that being Lone Wolf plus Sword Logic. Beyond that, each week you can also run 3 matches for another role, but most people just stick with the original role despite it being nerfed multiple times. Without a doubt though, guys, this thing's a monster. Redrix is statistically just better in a lot of different categories, which is why Bungie has nerfed it so many different times. And this coincided with a lightweight pulse rifle buff that affected weapons like the BXR, and Redrix just took it to that next level. Even after all the nerfs, guys, this one is still a solid one and well worth the comp grind. Now, next weapon is going to require you to play Trouse, the new and improved Exalted Truth Void hand cannon. Don't freak out. You don't even have to go flawless anymore to get access to this weapon. Just by simply playing, you can earn rep, spend some Ingrams, and potentially get your gun roll that way. Or you can just play out your card. Considering all the changes that have been made to Trouse, it has never been easier to lock down loot than what it is now. Now, Exalted has always been a very popular one amongst PvP players, but I was actually surprised to see how good it is inside of PvE. With options like Withering Gaze and Destabilizing Rounds in that 3rd column, One for All, Repulsor Brace, and Demoralize in that 4th column, you essentially have the void version of Zalur's Bane. Now, before moving on to our Vanguard drops, we have to bring up the elusive Boondoggle MK55, which is a roll drop. This is a kinetic slot 720 round per minute submachine gun that looks very similar to Huckleberry. It came to our attention via Les, who got the hipfire grip offhand strike roll, which is actually viable inside of PvP, and I mean super viable, especially when you stack it with things like Radiant Dance Machines. It has the text balance stock origin trait, which says that damaging targets while firing from the hip increases handling, reload speed, and movement speed while aiming down sights. This gives you some stat bumps for just damaging with the hip fire, which is essentially how we play every time I've ever used this SMG. And then once you get a kill, if you have offhand strike, it kicks that range up to crazy lengths. This is a very fun SMG, guys, and it greatly surprised me. It is a bit harder to farm for. Essentially, you just have to wait for it to be in a lost sector loot pool to farm it there, but that's just how it is, guys. Roll drops are finicky, and if you want to check out our video on how to farm for all roll drops, we have a link to that down below. Now, I know I only said I was going to mention one roll drop, but I have to bring up one more, and this one has completely evaded me all season long, that being the Cruoris FR4. Now, this is an aggressive frame fusion rifle, which pre-Heresy would have already made you click off this video, but this archetype has been buffed, and this particular fusion rifle has some very nasty rolls, in particular Discord and Rolling Storm. That roll right there, guys, is what I'm looking for, and I cannot get it, man. Outside of that, Clown Cartridge and Elemental Honing is another one I'm looking out for, but if I can get that Discord Rolling Storm roll, that's the one, man. Now, moving on to our Vanguard drops this episode, we got to talk about our Void Rocket Sidearm Lotus-Eater. This one is a 100% must-have. Now, the legendary Rocket Sidearm journey started way back when in Warlord's Ruin with Indebted Kindness. And since then, guys, this archetype has taken over. From the Final Shape expansion, which brought us the Call, to Episode Echoes, which brought us Aberrant Action, to Iron Banner, which brought us to Nash's Mastery. Every one of these have one-upped each other every single time. And somehow Lotus-Eater has continued that tradition with combinations like Repulsor Brace and Reconstruction in that 3rd column, with One for All and Destabilizing Rounds in that 4th column. This thing is an absolute monster, not only in its ability to slay, but also in its ability to provide utility in all areas of the game. Now, most of you are probably interested in the Adept version from GMs, but keep in mind, guys, you can always just purchase these for Ciphers and Ingrams at Zavala directly in the tower. If you're looking for a great weapon, guys, to carry you, this one is a solid one, and definitely one you should farm next time it's in rotation. Now, we can't talk about Vanguard drops without talking about the return of Palindrome. It's been years since this was in rotation, all the way back in Witch Queen was the last time that this was even acquirable. Now, a lot of people were crapping on this gun once the perk list was revealed, and the fact that the energy type was changed to Arc. Again, originally it was Void. But to be honest with everyone, the Palindrome we had back in the day wouldn't even be the god roll in the current sandbox. And in my opinion, I think this is one of the best feeling hand cannons in Destiny 2. It has a place in both PvE and PvP, with options like Explosive Payload and Rolling Storm as a great combination to be looking out for, and To the Pain and Master of Arms for my PvP players. Now, much like Lotus-Eater, you can just run strikes when this is the weekly weapon for your drops, or you can use your ciphers and Ingrams to buy rolls if you're not hunting for that adept version, which only drops from GMs. Also, don't forget, guys, when you reset your reputation with Zavala, this gives you access to extra perks in your 3rd and 4th columns, enabling you to lock down that god roll. Now, I know this list is very long already, but this takes us to our last group of weapons, that being the Vault of Glass weapons that were recently refreshed. Now, if you haven't checked out our god roll video, check it out, guys. It's a full breakdown going over every one of these. But TLDR on this is that the origin trait on these weapons is absolutely S tier. That is the Time Loss Magazine origin trait. Now, this says that final blows of this weapon grant bonus super energy. When your super expires, the weapon's magazine is doubled for a long duration and reloads from reserves. Guys, I cannot stress just how good this origin trait is in damage phases. Disregard combinations from our artifact mods like Legend Incarnate, Gold from Lead, Perpetual Destruction. This origin trait all on its own puts these weapons in a whole nother category. Now, in terms of weapons to look out for, pretty much all of them. Fatebringer has been a solid hand cannon, for instance. It's even better now. It can be acquired within the 3rd and 4th encounters. It can roll things like One for All and Kinetic Tremors, or Explosive Payload and One for All. You have Praedyth's Revenge, which is a great option even if you are absolutely in love with Supremacy. It drops from the 2nd and final encounters of the raid, and it too has things like Kinetic Tremors in that 3rd column, alongside a bunch of different damage perks in that 4th column, like Bait and Switch and Elemental Honing, which buffs that tremor damage. Corrective Measure, which is a void heavy machine gun that drops from the 1st and 3rd and final encounters, takes full advantage of our void artifact mods, along with having some great perk options. You can even rock double damage perks here, like Redirection with Killing Tally, which is actually the role that I have, which greatly pumps up that damage. But lastly, we have the best weapon, in my opinion, that you can get from Vault of Glass, Hezen's Vengeance. This is the rocket launcher, and it's currently the best rocket launcher in the game, especially when using our artifact mods and the origin trait together. This allows you to just blow your rocket load all over the place. You can essentially just fire for seemingly forever until you're completely out. From great perk combinations like Overflow, Auto-Loading Holster, and Envious Arsenal in that 3rd column, to Explosive Line and Bait and Switch, and for my folks rocking Prismatic, Elemental Honing in that 4th column. This rocket is so good, people are actually able to solo the Witness again because of this origin trait and Hezen's Vengeance. Guys, if you have not run Vault of Glass in a while, I highly encourage you get a squad together or even hop into an LFG. You can check out our guide as we go over all of the challenges and the god rolls for each of these. The Vault of Glass weapons, guys, are definitely ones you shouldn't pass up. So fellas, that's it. Those are the weapons I recommend going into Rite of the Nines. Now, keep in mind, don't have to get these right now. Just write them down. Have a checklist. Keep an eye out for them. If they happen to drop for you in whatever various activities, see if one of these matches up with the god roll that we've recommended. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.